What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. Now, we are going to be diving into Robin and Batman issue 1 of 3. And I'm actually really excited about this brand new comic, because we are seeing Dick Grayson, aka Robin, aka Nightwing, in his early days, with his parents just recently dying, with Batman just recently adopting him, beginning to train him. We are seeing the early days of Richard Grayson. So without wasting any time, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 1, we are picking up with our Robin writing in his diary, or his journal if you will, with his parents being dead, with him having a new adoptive father. His world really has been turned upside down, but Batman brought him on so he could train, so he could take on the people that hurt his family. And really, this kid, he's living in a nightmare. His entire life right now has been flipped upside down, and he really doesn't know which way is forward. The only thing he knows is his anger, his want for revenge, his want to avenge his family's death. And so our story starts with a young Dick Grayson, currently dressed in all black, having an earpiece in his ear, and Batman has sent him out on one of his first missions, just to test and see how he will do. Now, these guys don't seem to be any kind of crazy bad guys. They look to just be street thugs taking some meat out of the back of a truck. And so with our young Dick Grayson not currently going by Robin just yet, he jumps into the fray. He starts taking these guys on with Batman in his ear. Batman is telling him what he is doing wrong, how he's not focusing on the whole picture, how he's not paying attention to all of his surroundings around him. Now Dick lets him know that I got this covered, that I don't need you talking in my ear. Let me handle this situation, and afterwards we can do an after action review. But we see our young Dick Grayson put into a chokehold. With him being choked out, Batman lets him know that he's going to come in, telling him no, telling him that he's got this. Batman tells him he's lost control of this situation, telling him to abort the mission now or he's coming down there and he is going to handle it himself. But we see Richard, he starts beating the crap out of these guys, and he puts all of them down on the ground. And so he didn't abort the mission, he didn't stop, and you see the smirk on his face. He's happy. He just did what he was supposed to do. He took these guys down. And that's when the Batmobile shows up. Batman stepping out, and he is angry right now because he told him to abort mission. He is not listening to instructions. He is not listening to whatever Batman has to say. And this worries Batman because this can get him killed. But Dick tells him that I told you I had this under control. And as Batman throws one of his batarangs, he hits a guy coming out of the truck, saying that you didn't have the situation. You didn't pay attention to everything, and that simple fact right there, this could have got you killed today. That you weren't seeing the whole picture. You got tunnel vision on these couple of guys and didn't see the guy inside of the truck, telling him to pick up his earpiece and get in the damn car. And as they take off down the road, there is a lingering silence, neither of them saying a single word to one another. But when Dick does go and try and say something to Batman, Batman tells him to just shut up, that he doesn't want to hear it. We can see how angry Batman truly is right now. And getting back to the Batcave, Alfred asks how things went, and Batman says absolutely nothing. And Dick tells him that it went fine, that he simply didn't need any help. But Batman says that he almost got himself killed, saying that he knew he was not ready, telling him that he was too sloppy, that he's not ready for operations, that he put him into the field far too early. And so because of that, he tells him that there will be no more operations. You will continue your training. You will continue working on doing all of this. Of course, he is opposed to this. He's not happy about it. And Alfred goes to chime in. He goes to interject into this. And Batman rudely tells him, like, no, you can't. Telling Alfred that he needs to stay out of this. Alfred with a smug look on his face, like he just wants to punch Batman in the face for being so blatantly rude to him. But we see the young Dick Grayson, he goes running off saying that this is not fair, that they were supposed to be partners in all of this, and he's not being treated as such. Batman telling him that storming off and having a tantrum like a child, it only goes to prove that he is not ready. Now turning and looking to Alfred, Batman tells him to don't say it, believing that he was going to say because he is a child. Alfred lets him know that if I were to say that, you would simply say the child died with his parents, that he needs to be a soldier or something to that nature. But Batman believes this to be true because this only works if he has the armor he needs to survive out there on his own. And he's not going to put a child into danger. Dick Grayson needs to be something more. He knew that. Alfred knew that. Now, all Alfred knows is that he was going to help a child in need, to help a little boy who lost his family. But Batman is the one decided all the rest, without asking the opinion of Alfred or anything else. And so here we are, as usual. But he tells him, since we are in this position, would it not be just a little bit nice to give that kid a tiny bit of compassion, just a tiny bit of leniency? But Batman believes that if that were to happen, if he was given leniency, that could easily get him killed out there today. The truck driver could have killed him without any issue. And then he would have been bringing home a dead child. And Alfred tells him that he doesn't have to be just like him. He doesn't have to be just like Batman. Perhaps the answer is letting him find out who he is. Now, Batman, being done with his conversation, tells him that he will have his dinner down here. And so we pick up later the next day, and we have Robin going to school, doing the regular thing. And this is one of the worst things for him, because every day he goes back to reality. Every morning he goes back to school, and he is reliving the nightmare in his head of remembering his parents dying. Because this boredom, sitting in school every day, he has nothing but time to think. And upon that thinking, it brings back all of the memories that he does not want to remember. And so he waits for night. He waits for the nights that he can train, that he can practice and get ready to get that revenge for his parents. But the thing is, Batman doesn't trust him anymore, or at least that's how he is feeling. And so they go through the same old cycle, the same old tests, the same old everything that they have been doing night after night after night. And so he begins to think, maybe I shouldn't have gone with Batman. Maybe I shouldn't have done any of this to begin with. But at the same time, what was his alternative? Because at the end of the day, at least he is not alone. He has somebody here that understands his pain, and that is Bruce Wayne. And when he's alone for too long, that's when the ghosts come. That's when the horrible reality, it all hits him. And so his way of dealing with this is continuously training, preparing his body, doing everything he needs to fight the villains of Gotham. But with this idea of really being just super depressing in his mind, he wants to think of something else. So he starts thinking of possible names that he could have for himself. Bruce Wayne has his alter ego, and that is Batman. And so Dick thinks that he needs to come up with his own name. Now, he thought about Batboy for quite some time. Obviously, Batman is super opposed to that idea. And Dick doesn't think it's a great idea because it's not really gonna grow with him. You can't be calling him Batboy when he's 20 years old. And so going over a bunch of names, he thinks maybe Nighthawk, maybe Nightwing. And this is more or less the first instance where he thinks about the idea of Nightwing. Now, that obviously won't come for many, many years, but this is that moment where the name was first created. And as he sits here, he draws on a piece of paper, trying to draw out his costume, what it might look like, what it might be. And as school begins to end, he heads outside only to find Alfred. Now, he was expecting Batman so they could go out and do missions and train and so on and so forth. And so obviously he's very disappointed, and as he sits in the car with Alfred notices this, saying that he seems disappointed, that he really shouldn't be taking it personal. And he tells Alfred that he's starting to think that this is all some sort of test. He thinks that he's grounding him to see what he'll do. Now, Alfred doesn't think so, and that is because Batman had him dispose of the costume that Dick Grayson has been using this entire time. Now, obviously extremely irate about this, he tells him that he had no right to do this, that costume belonged to him, and Alfred tries to tell him that maybe it's for the best. maybe it's best that you just be a kid, that you enjoy your childhood and you don't try to become some kind of soldier or sidekick to the Batman, saying that maybe in a couple years with more training, things might be a little bit different. Now, obviously, he doesn't want to hear any of this, telling him that that's not what he agreed to. That is not why he came here. That was never part of the deal for him to live in Wayne Manor. And so he goes up to his room and he starts creating his own costume, using little bits of pieces that belong to the Flying Graysons. With him sewing the R onto his costume, we are seeing the very first costume ever created for Robin. And he picked the name Robin just to make Batman mad, because it's not darker, it's not more sinister, it's not more threatening. And he picked all of these crazy bright colors to make Batman even more mad, to make him stick out like a sore thumb and kind of F you to Batman, saying that I will make my costume however I like and you cannot stop me from going out there. But that's when we pick up with Batman making his way around Gotham City. Now, he was also blind to what was going on, because the truth of the matter is those guys that were robbing that meat truck, it was something of a much bigger picture. He didn't realize it because he was too focused on trying to train Dick Grayson. But he had Jim Gordon release these guys from prison. Releasing them from their jail cells, they went directly back to their boss, and that led them into the sewers. And so Batman is recognizing that something is going on, it's much bigger than he anticipated, and now he is going down to investigate what happened. And as Batman makes his way into this sewer, what Batman did not know, or at least Robin believes Batman didn't know, is that Robin has been tailing him this entire time, and he goes following him down into the sewer systems. And as Robin goes down here, looking around to see which way they went, after traveling just a little bit, he sees them off to the side. He sees all of these goons that he had beat up just recently. Recognizing that something's not right here, believing that he had the drop on these guys and Batman, he is recognizing that Batman must have circled around and realized that Robin had been following him. And now he knows he's going to be in so much trouble. And when he turns around, he doesn't find Batman, he finds Killer Croc. And Robin, he goes to throw a punch, but Killer Croc blocks it with no problem, picking him up by his throat, asking him where did he get this costume? Why is he wearing it? Wanting some kind of answer, beating the crap out of young Robin. From behind Killer Croc, this is where we hear Batman tell him to get away from him. And we see the two of them, they start brawling it out. Batman taking a punch straight to the side, and Batman pulling out a trick to hurt Killer Croc to get him away from here, with Killer Croc running off in the opposite direction. Our young Robin goes over to Batman, and Batman has 2 broken ribs, asking what the hell is Robin doing here? And he just apologizes, but asks, are we gonna go after Killer Croc? Batman saying that he has 2 broken ribs, and they lost the element of surprise. And so they are done here. They are calling it a day and they're going home. And that's what picks us back up in the Batcave, with Batman extremely furious that Robin was able to slip past Alfred. Robin tells him that he thought this was all a test. He thought he wanted to see how determined Robin actually was to prove that he was ready, telling him that his outfit is ridiculous. How could he think about going into combat wearing something like that? Robin putting his head down, saying that it's not ridiculous, that it was part of what his family was. Now Batman, he knows that. He knew immediately as soon as he saw it. And that's why he made something for him. Going over to the side, we see the Robin suit that Batman had designed and made for him. Batman saying that he was going to give it to him next week, that he was going to let him join him. But this is when he finally realizes Batman has been reading through his journal. That is the only way that he could have found out about Robin. And Batman tells him that they can't have secrets. Dick Grayson obviously extremely furious because that's all he had. That was the only bit of privacy that he could keep to himself. And Batman went in and he really invaded that privacy. And it's almost a heartbreaking moment because Batman, he was doing this with the best of intentions, believing that Dick Grayson would be happy about this, making him a part of the team overall. that he was giving him a gift, and he didn't expect this reaction from him. And so he goes up to his room, he tears apart his journal, and in the sewers, we have Killer Croc dressing up and heading out into the world. And he makes his way to the circus. As he looks around the circus, looks at all the people, he remembers the past. He remembers a time when he saw the flying Graysons. He looks at all of their old equipment, seeing all of this, seeing the posters, seeing the colors from the flying Graysons. Killer Croc has just figured out who this young costume hero is. Alright guys, so we pick up with this issue with a bunch of school kids currently making fun of Dick Grayson. And that is because his name being Richard, the nickname being Dick, of course they're gonna make fun of him. They're gonna tease him all day long. And it gets to the point where these kids, they get physical with him. And we see Dick Grayson just kick their butts, being pushed to the edge by these bullies, feeling like he had no other option but to retaliate. That's exactly what he did, but that gets him put in the principal's office. Now, of course, Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne isn't the one to show up as his guardian. The one that shows up is Alfred Pennyworth. And here we get a conversation between the principal and Alfred. The principal really trying to convey that he wished Bruce Wayne would be a more active part of the kid's life, that would actually show up when something like this happens, especially if he's deciding he's going to be his guardian. Now the principal, he gets rather rude with it, saying that Bruce Wayne is doing it more for the tabloids and publicity than actually caring for a child. And of course, Alfred, he takes great offense to this, telling him that he really should just mind his own business, saying that him and Bruce Wayne will both handle the disciplinary actions for Mr. Dick Grayson, and that he should probably stop reading tabloids and worry more about keeping bullies in line. And so on the drive home, both Alfred and Dick Grayson, they have a conversation, and it's really Dick's just apologizing. And of course, Alfred lets him know, like, those guys did start it. So at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing that you could have done. It's not like you're out there actively picking fights. And with it being Dick Grayson's 12th birthday, Alfred, from the glove compartment, pulls out a brand new diary. A diary for him to continue to write in. Because in the last issue, we saw Batman invade his privacy by reading the diary. That's how he ended up getting the idea to make the Robin suit. And Alfred tries to explain to him that Batman was really just trying to find a way to connect, to show that he really does care about him. And he lets him know that Bruce has always had that problem of showing people that he can care. And Alfred, he wants Dick to be completely different than that. He doesn't want him to be just like Batman. He wants him to be himself. Now, showing up to the Batcave, Batman lets them know that they are running late. And with dinner having to wait, regardless of it being Dick's birthday, Batman says that they have a mission that they need to go do. One that requires immediate attention. Now, of course, Robin, he believes that they're going after Killer Croc. But that's not the case. There is something more important that they need to attend to, with Batman actually apologizing to Robin, but saying that the suit is still ready whenever he wants to put it on, with Dick admitting that the suit is pretty perfect and it's exactly what he imagined it to be. Batman tells him then go ahead, put the suit on, and let's get going, that he has a birthday present for him and he will explain on the way up. And on their way up to the Justice League satellite. And in this interaction, this is where Batman calls Dick Grayson Robin for the very first time. But they are quickly interrupted by Hawkman and Hawkgirl. And Hawkman is really just messing with them because he too has decided to take on a sidekick. Batman telling him that they have to think about the future. They have to think about who is going to follow in their footsteps. But this is where Robin, he meets the Justice League for the first time. This is where he gets to shake the hand of Superman. Welcoming him to the Justice League, he is completely starstruck. Now, the Justice League, they really do have some work to do, with Mongol out there doing whatever he is doing, terrorizing whoever he is terrorizing. Hawkman is staying behind as the rest of the Justice League, they go out on this mission, leaving behind all of our young apprentices, leaving behind all of our sidekicks, our young Justice, our Teen Titans. And this is where Robin, he walks into the other room and he sees all of the others. He sees Wally West, Donna Troy, Roy Harper, Garth aka Aqualad, with of course Wally West being the first to come up and say hello, introducing himself as Kid Flash. We see just a bunch of teenagers having fun playing video games, but absolutely bored out of their mind, wishing that they could go on the mission with the Justice League. Roy Harper even suggesting that they go and trail them, follow behind them. Of course, Donna Troy saying that they are not going to go out there and do this. Wally West being a little bit skeptical, he's still learning his powers. So he's not even sure if he's ready to go out and get into some combat situations. But this is where Robin chimes in, that they don't have to follow the Justice League of America to go on mission. With him piquing the others' interest, he lets them know that while he was walking through, he observed that there were other missions that were not as high priority. And so all they would have to do is sneak past Hawkman, hop into the teleporter, and go do those missions together. And the way they're gonna do that is sneaking through the ventilation system, going up through the vents, going completely undetected. They make their way over to the teleporter after the Kid Flash quickly went in to find the locations of where they need to go without Hawkman even detecting him in the room. And so with them punching in the coordinates, they head out. They jump into the teleporter, and their first fight brings them against the Royal Flush Gang. And we have seen DC Comics really just beat the crap out of these guys. We have seen them throughout so many lines recently, and they've really just been thrown in there so our superheroes can beat the crap out of them and throw them in jail, or use them as a distraction for something bigger, whatever the case may be. But that's exactly what we are seeing here. We are seeing our Young Justice, we are seeing our Teen Titans go out there and just kick some freaking butt, doing a multitude of missions, even taking on King Shark. They go and do all of this. They teleport back into the satellite. With them climbing back through the vents, they get back into the room just in time when Hawkman is going in to check on them. With him walking into the room and them pretending like nothing has happened, like they have been here the entire time, they completely get away with it. Now, as they all talk about how great that was, how fun it was, they get interrupted by Batman. Batman coming in and letting them know that it is time to go, with him saying goodbye to all of his new friends and them teleporting into the Batcave. He tells Alfred all about everything that happened, how he met Superman, how he met the Justice League of America, how he met all of the sidekicks, telling him that it was his best birthday gift that he could ever get. Alfred turning to Batman and telling him thank you, because that was probably one of the nicest things that you could have done for him. But Batman had another agenda the entire time, telling Robin that he wants a mission debrief. And this is where we truly learn how good Dick Grayson is. Giving a mission debrief, but not telling him about the missions they went on, telling him about the other sidekicks. Running a psychoanalysis on them from the minute he met them, breaking down their weaknesses, breaking down their strengths, finding out exactly who they are, and how he could overcome them if he ever needed to. Saying that Roy Harper, aka Speedy, he may be the easiest to take down, and that is just because he doesn't have the power set as the other individuals. That doesn't necessarily make him the weakest one, but Robin believes that there are spots on him that can be exploited, being able to break him down. Next is being Garth, aka Aqualad. This guy being more of a loner, saying that if you separate him from the others, let him think he's in control, and then turn the tides on him, you would have to isolate him from water and then make your strike. Target number 3 would be Wally West, aka Kid Flash. And his greatest flaw is believing that he could never live up to his mentor, to Barry Allen, to the Flash. And because of this, Robin would use that to his advantage, making him doubt himself. And when he starts to slow down, when that doubt really starts to seep into his mind, that is when he would make his strike. And finally, there is Donna Troy, probably the strongest of all of them put together. Confident, self-assured, no weaknesses except for one, that she sees the good in everybody. And so she would never see the attack coming from Robin. And that would be his avenue. That would be his way in. Batman telling him good work. Alfred is absolutely stunned, telling him how could you? How could you do this? Batman reminding him that Robin is a soldier. He is not a mascot like the other ones. And if he is going to be in the company of demigods, he will need to know how to defeat them, just in case. Alfred, of course, objecting, saying that they are just children. Children like him who deserve to have some kind of normalcy in their lives. But Batman reminds him that he never did, so why should he? With Alfred storming off, Batman telling Robin to go prepare for bed, getting ready for school the next day, that is where we pick up with Killer Croc coming out of the tunnels. Now he seemed to be investigating who the Flying Graysons were and what happened to the young Grayson boy. And with him popping up onto the surface, something he doesn't like to do, he did it because he has a meeting with the calculator. And the calculator has been working with great effort to try and track down the identity and the location of where young Dick Grayson might be. Because after his parents died, it seems that he completely disappeared. Not sure if he changed his identity, not sure what really happened to him. With the records being sealed from his adoption, they have no idea who he is with. But since he is a 12-year-old boy, that means that he has to be enrolled in school somewhere. Or at least that's the assumption, assuming that he's not being homeschooled. Doing a search of entire city of Gotham, this is where he finds out the school that Dick Grayson is going to. And so with Killer Croc now having the location of where Dick Grayson will be, he goes and he camps out at the school, waiting for his opportunity to run into the young Flying Grayson. Alright gang, so as we dive into the final issue, we are picking up in the sewers. And right now, Batman and Robin, they are beating the crap out of some goons. They are trying to get information on where Killer Croc is. And with them desperate for information, we see Robin, he goes a little bit too far. He is hitting one of these guys and he is just making him bloody, splattering blood all over his costume. Batman even has to back him off. The only issue is these guys, they don't have any information for them. None of them have seen Croc for weeks. They have all been waiting, scouring the sewers, looking for where he might be. And so with this interrogation over, with them heading back home, Alfred, he cleans out the blood from the uniform. And with it picking up as the next morning, they are sitting down at the breakfast table and they are talking about what next? What are we going to do next? Now, Dick Grayson, he has to go back to school. It is a Monday morning, which means he has to get his butt moving before it is too late. Of course, Robin, he wants to stay home. He wants to figure out this Killer Croc situation. Being so close to an answer, Alfred tells him that he doesn't have a choice, that he needs to get his butt up and he needs to get to school. With Bruce Wayne at the table, he's not really paying attention to this conversation in the slightest. But he tells Alfred that the boy should be allowed to stay home. With this investigation ongoing, with them being so close to it, anything that he would learn during this investigation is far better than anything he could learn at the academy. Now for Alfred, this throws him over the edge, taking Robin's costume and throwing it in his face, telling him, fine, next time you can clean the blood out. With Alfred wanting to at least attempt to keep up appearances, to appear to look like a normal family. With Alfred throwing the costume at Bruce Wayne and storming out of the room, he tells Dick Grayson that you need to get up, you need to go to school. Alfred is right, and you need to go learn something today. And before we continue on, I do want to bring up the fact that Alfred, he really has been betrayed in this new light in the most recent comics, in newer comics at least. He's been portrayed as someone who stands up to Batman more. You know, in the past, he was always someone that didn't always necessarily question him. While you had moments of that, we are seeing it a lot more often as comics are going on. At least for me in the last 2 years, from what I have seen, we have seen Alfred become much more aggressive in his stances against Batman. And I think this is something that was needed, to point out the fact that Alfred Pennyworth, he busts his butt trying to keep everybody in line. More than anything, I'm just happy that Alfred is finally getting all of the spotlight that he truly deserves. Because to many of the Robins, he has been a father figure, and he has been the closest and best companion of Batman through this entire time. But with Dick Grayson going back to school, all he can think about is Killer Croc, about getting out there, fighting some crime, and figuring out where he might be. He finds himself completely engulfed in this. So much so that when kids come up to offer him to play D&D, he really doesn't have any kind of interest in getting involved in it, believing that he just doesn't have time for little kid games or role-playing games or whatever it may be. He doesn't have time to be a kid. But this conversation is quickly interrupted, and that is because Killer Croc knew the location of where Robin is. Knowing which school he went to, it was a matter of him going into the principal's office, getting on the loudspeaker, and letting him know that if Robin doesn't show himself, that all of these students, the teachers, the faculty, they are all going to pay. And if he doesn't show himself, Killer Croc is going to reveal who Robin truly is. And so with panic filling the hallways, it gives Dick Grayson the opportunity to make his way to Killer Croc. With him covering his face, showing himself to Killer Croc, the chase is on. Though we can't really say it's much of a chase, because as Robin goes to take off, Killer Croc quickly grabs him and throws him into a wall, only to be saved seconds later with the crashing glass and the entrance of Batman. With Batman coming in and trying to save the day, Batman's ribs are still a mess. And because of that, Killer Croc uses that to his advantage, gives some sucker punches to his ribcage, and Batman goes crumbling to his knees. And as he beats the heck out of Batman, he tells him he is going to watch as Batman dies, as everyone you love dies. That you are not going to witness just one father's death, but now two. And then once he has taken everything from him, then, and only then, will he come for the life of Dick Grayson. And so with Killer Croc throwing Batman over his shoulder and jumping out a window, we see Dick Grayson quickly make his way back home, telling Alfred what happened, telling him that Killer Croc has kidnapped Batman, and that it is his fault and he needs to rectify this. And when I say his fault, I mean Robin. Robin is blaming himself for all of this happening, and he is the partner of Batman. He needs to be there. He needs to have his back, no matter what the stakes. Alfred trying to caution him, trying to let him know, maybe we should call somebody. Maybe we should call the Justice League or anybody that has more experience than you do. But he tells Alfred, this is how it has to be. This is what it means to be Robin. And with him suiting up, he heads out, knowing exactly where to go. And that is what's going to take us to the Circus. The place that has been here for quite some time. A circus that is no longer running. Bruce Wayne once offering to Dick Grayson to buy this place and demolish it. But Robin didn't want that. This is the last living memory of his parents, of the life he had before Batman. And though he never wanted to return here, it was nice to have that there. The last piece of his parents that he would ever have. This was his home. And the reason Robin knew to come to this location is because Killer Croc was once a member of this circus. Now, Killer Croc, he had left much earlier on. When Robin was younger, he barely remembers him, but he remembers him. Back then, they all called him Fishman. Being much littler, Dick Grayson was terrified of him at the time. And though he looked very different back then, Dick Grayson is 100% sure that they are the same person. And for him, it's all obvious. Back then, Killer Croc, he was trapped inside of a tank. He was sad, depressed, more than likely mistreated. And this is the side of the circus that Dick Grayson never really saw, because all he ever saw was happiness. The Flying Graysons being the biggest attraction around. They were the stars. They got all of the spotlight. And so they were showered with affection. They were showered with love. And so the only thing Killer Croc ever saw was their happiness while he was suffering down below. And this is where Robin walks into one of the tents with a giant tank filling up with water and Batman hanging upside down, hanging low enough to where when the water rises, it will drown Batman. Robin jumping in, trying to do anything he can to try to free the Bat. And we have Batman stop him, telling him that he is a good boy. No matter what has been said, no matter how Batman has ever acted, he is proud of him. And that he doesn't have to do this. He doesn't have to be here. With Killer Croc on his way, with this all being a trap to lure you in. In my current predicament, I cannot help you. And he calls him son, which is just so powerful in this moment. Because he is putting it all on the line. If Batman doesn't survive this, he doesn't want Dick Grayson knowing that he was just some experiment, that he was just a sidekick. This is Bruce Wayne's son. He loves him, he cares about him, and he is proud of him. With him trying so hard to pick the lock, he ends up dropping the pins down into the water. Looking for them before Batman drowns, we have the arrival of Killer Croc. And Robin wastes no time getting into the fight, jumping at Killer Croc, laying down some elbows, laying down some haymakers. But with one singular punch to Robin's stomach, all of the air is knocked from him, with Killer Croc grabbing him by the cape and lifting him up into the air, letting him know, after all of this time, after all of these years, him getting nothing but fish guts thrown into his water as they got all of the applause, all of the glory, all of the fame. They got all of the love while he was kicked on. He was spit on. He was treated like nothing more than a freak. And so now he is going to make Dick Grayson pay. As Batman is slowly beginning to drown, we see him take Robin and dunk his head underwater, continuously doing this. And holding him under long enough, we see Robin, he starts to go lifeless. His vision begins to fade, and everything turns to black. And in this darkness, this is where he sees the light. Both of his parents standing before him, telling him he needs to open his eyes. With him opening them up, he sees an object he can grab, and he does. Grabbing this object, he stabs Killer Croc right in the face. As he screams in anguish, this gives Robin the opportunity, and he realizes this whole time he has been fighting Killer Croc in his territory. He has been fighting him in the water, but a Flying Grayson, they belong in the air. And so with him throwing his grappling hook up to the ceiling, we see our Robin take flight. And so now having this rope, we see him doing these acrobatics, just beating the crap out of Killer Croc. And with him knocking out Killer Croc, he makes his way over to Batman, trying to free him, hoping that he got to him in time, hoping that Batman has not drowned yet. Unlocking him, getting him down, and bringing Batman up to the surface, Batman is still alive, with the two of them embracing one another. This could be argued as one of the greatest moments for Batman and Robin. This could be argued as the day that Dick Grayson truly understood how much Batman loved him. And so with our battle now being completed, we pick up days later and we have Robin sitting down with a bunch of school friends playing Dungeons and Dragons. And he has learned so much from this whole ordeal. For so long, he has been afraid of his own shadow, afraid of the darkness, afraid of all of these things out there. But he has learned more than anything that this fear, it is a good thing. This fear helps you find out who you truly are, what you are truly capable of, and the things that you can overcome. And this is when Dick Grayson, he came to the realization he never actually needs to be Batman. He doesn't need to live up to the mantle of the Batman. He can be something else. He can be something better. And he knows that as he goes along this path, that he won't be doing it alone. Whether it be the Titans, whether it be Batman, there will always be somebody at his side. Somebody there to carry the burden of everything they must. While Batman is the darkness, Robin is the light. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Though this was only 3 issues, I really think they got their point across. They got the beginning, the middle, and the end. We were able to get a ton of dialogue, but also really getting some great emotion, really understanding how Robin came to be, how he came to create the name Robin, how he created his suit, and even the beginnings of Nightwing, because he's talked about Nightwing quite a few times. In fact, that was actually the name he wanted to go with, but more than anything, he wanted to taunt Batman, and that's why he ended up picking Robin. But what I really like most about this is it shows us that Robin, he didn't really know what he was going to be. When he started all of this out, he wasn't sure if he wanted to be exactly like Batman, but he learned along the way that he wanted to be something better. That darkness may be a tool that Batman uses, but Robin wants to be the light. He wants to show people that he is there for them. That while people fear Batman, Robin needs to be the one to come up and offer that hand. And we have seen this talked about through a couple of Nightwing lines. It's almost like a yin and yang between Batman and Robin. And Dick Grayson, he really did set the precedent for what comes next. For every iteration of Robin, he has laid out the ground rules, the law of the land. He has let everybody know that if you are going to be Robin, this is your job. This is your job as the sidekick to the Bat. These are your responsibilities, and this is how you need to help Batman when he's in his darkest times. When he can no longer see the light, you need to show it to him. Not only that, we got to see some amazing emotion between Robin and Batman. Well, Batman, he's been this brooding force that believes that this is nothing more than an experiment, or at least that's what Robin believed, that he was nothing more than a soldier. But Dick Grayson was proven otherwise, and that was because Batman finally showed his vulnerability. With a near-death experience, he was finally able to come out and let Dick Grayson know that I love you, you are my son, and you are the most important thing to me. And so I can't think of a more heartwarming story than this one. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.